Good evening. Welcome to Focus TV News at 9. My name is Imbinda, but first let's take a look at stories hitting the headlines tonight. Billions around the globe mark the World Cancer Day. President Ruto attends the East African Leaders Summit in Burundi. Judiciary refutes allegations on demotion of workers. Welcome to the broadcast. February 4th remains this day set aside for billions around the globe to mark the World's Cancer Day. The day is usually used to raise awareness about cancer and to encourage its prevention, detection and treatment. Nikilin Nyokafi with more on that story.
Participants and stakeholders around the world today commemorated World Cancer Day. The Union for International Cancer Control, UICC, led the celebrations to support the goals of the World Cancer Declaration written in 2008. Stakeholders took this as an opportunity to educate the masses on the prevention, early detection, and treatment of cancer. Kenya joined the celebrations by holding a 2-day international summit led by the National Cancer Institute of Kenya in Kasarani Primary School. All this in efforts to raise awareness and promote early detection and treatment of cancer. Elsewhere, a campaign dubbed Cycle 360 commenced in Meru County, where participants circuited 360 kilometers of Mount Kenya to raise cancer awareness. Reporting for Focus TV, my name is Nikki Lynn Nyukafi.
President William Ruto has today joined the other East African heads of state in Bujumbura, Burundi, to attend an extraordinary summit. Today's meeting was meant to evaluate the security situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo following an escalation of hostilities in the Eastern DRC near the border with Rwanda. Mukhsin Mohamed with more on that story.
President William Ruto earlier today attended an extraordinary summit held in Bujumbura, bringing together East African heads of state to discuss the deteriorating security situation in the East of Democratic Republic of Congo. Among the other heads of state in attendance were President Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania, Felix Tshisekedi of DRC, Salva Kiir of Southern Sudan, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, and Yoweri Museveni of Uganda. President Ruto on his Twitter account appealed for the international community to audit industrial supply chains and ensure that global production and consumption honor the Congolese resource sovereignty and not profit out of conflict and human suffering. The president further called for the world to let the Democratic Republic of Congo to enjoy its resources. Ruto further called for the concerted efforts to solve their matter expeditiously. Today's extraordinary summit comes just days after Pope Francis visited DRC, where he made a striking speech condemning what he calls economic colonialism inflicted on the residents of the region. The Pope urged armed groups to lay down their weapons in order to mitigate violence which has led to mass displacement of people in eastern DRC.
Torn by war, the Democratic Republic of Congo continues to witness within its confines conflicts and forced migrations, and to suffer from the terrible forms of exploitation unworthy of humanity and creation. This country, so immense and full of life, this diaphragm of Africa, struck by the violence like a blow to the stomach, has seemed for some time to be grasping for breath.
Today's one-day summit marks the second trip of President William Ruto out of the country this week alone, after visiting Somalia earlier on in the week. Mukhsin Mohamed, Focus.
President William Ruto is expected to meet governors next week to solve the disputed 2022-2023 county fundings. The summit, which brings together the president and governors, comes after a meeting chaired by the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua failed to reach its objectives. The Council of Governors maintains its stance that the equitable share be increased from 380 billion to 425 billion, a suggestion that Gachagua didn't agree with. The National Treasury says cannot increase the amount, while at the same time Commission on Revenue Allocation wants 470 billion shillings. Our reporter JoyMolly Maribe has more on that story.
President William Ruto is next week expected to meet governors in a bid to end the impasse over the equitable share revenue. The summit, which brings together the presidency and the governors, comes after a meeting chaired by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua failed to reach a middle ground. The Council of Governors maintains its stance that the equitable share be increased to 425 billion from the current allocation of 370 billion for the 2022-2023 financial year. Governors said that they hope a meeting with the president will help end the stalemate. The National Treasury says it can only increase the amount to 380 billion, while the Commission on Revenue Allocation wants a 407 billion allocation. CRA says its recommendation has been prepared against a backdrop of recovery in the country's economy following the containment of coronavirus. Reporting for Focus TV, my name is JoyMolly Maribe.
Now, Azimio la Umoja opposition outfit will tomorrow hold a public rally in Kibra's Kamukunji grounds. The meeting, which will be led by opposition chief Raila Odinga, comes against a backdrop of warnings from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission and CIC, who say the meetings threaten the country's unity. Here is JohnEdward Omino with that story.
Just 7 days after their last rally in Kamukunji, Embakasi East constituency, Azimio is now set for another rally tomorrow in Kibra's Kamukunji grounds. On Thursday this week, NCIC chairman Bishop Samuel Kobia cautioned Odinga against their planned rallies. Their arguments are that the rallies have encouraged hate speech and misinformation, which threaten oneness of the Kenyan public when Kenyans are facing more serious issues like high cost of living, which could worsen if more political rhetorics take center stage.
Kenya wenzangu hoye! Azimio la Umoja hoye! Basi leo ni leo, hakuna mchezo tena. Wangapi wanasema Kenya haitakuwa na uchaguzi wa wizi tena?
Azimio, however, insists that their public barazas will provide a platform for their supporters to deliberate on the country's pressing issues, including the high cost of living. In the past meetings, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, and Jeremiah Kioni were among leaders who denied President Ruto's win in the last poll despite IEBC saying otherwise. Raila Odinga, who was in Nigeria and Senegal this week, has new ideas on the Kenyan election management which might feature in tomorrow's rally. Odinga proposed a removal of IEBC, devolve election, and give each county power to run its own election as states do in the United States of America.
Within the next 2 weeks, la sivyo Wakenya watachukua hatua yao wenyewe.
Until the philosophy which old one race superior and another.
Unaunga mkono. Wakati unaunga mkono, unaunga mkono hapa.
Odinga also wants political parties to have representatives in the electoral body. Furthermore, Raila says that current electoral technology are compromised, and if not improved, Kenyans should consider going fully manual. JohnEdward Omino, Focus TV.
Samburu and other parts of the country are experiencing drought and famine. Well-wishers and the government are working hand in hand to try mitigate the looming drought in the area. Lack of pasture and water shortage due to prolonged drought in Samburu County has left many villages devastated. Women and children are traveling hundreds of kilometers in search of these vitals of life, a journey that begins as early as 5 a.m. Samburu North is the most affected. Many residents of this sparsely populated area normally practice pastoralism as their economic mainstay. But as the drought bites, what they have is not enough to make a living. Hundreds of livestock have died, many others are emaciated. Human life is threatened by the dwindling resources as hunger pangs bite with little help forthcoming. The situation has left livestock starving and with little water to drink in Nachola, Bendera, Ngilai, Lomerok, Lonjorin, Nyiro and Marti.
Wafugaji wanapitia hali ambayo ni mbaya zaidi. Hakuna maji, hakuna chakula, mali imeisha pia.
Authorities say that about 200,000 people are in dire need of food and water. According to the area leaders, the prevailing drought conditions in the region had reached an alarming level.
Ningependa kutoa wito kwa serikali yetu kuu kwamba hali hii inahitaji dharura kwa sababu hali sio hali tena. Manake wanyama ama mifugo ni kama ukame imemaliza na shida ni kubwa.
The Meteorological Department indicates that the long rains are expected to start on the 4th week of March in parts of the country and are set to continue until May. However, there will be poor rainfall distribution in the arid and semi-arid areas. For now, the residents hope the skies will open soon and spare them the agony that has caused them untold suffering. Right, we're taking a short break right here at Focus TV News at 9. We'll be back with more stories. Keep watching.
I hate my life. Nachukia the air I breathe. My dad is a random drunk. He's a loser. My mother is worse. She believes in God. Anasema he'll get her through. Nakumbuka, that's what she said when my older brother was killed in a gunfight. So it's just us, me and my brother, Jared and John. He doesn't deserve this life. Nafaa kumtoa huku manze.
Nataka do mingi za kunisapia mtaa.
Unajua sio for free. I'll need something in exchange.
Anything. I am now a drug dealer. Call me Pablo Escobar.
Just out of this world. Try this heavenly test today. Try the chili flavored crisps. Bang bang chili. Hot as you like it. Welcome back. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, led by opposition leader Raila Odinga, says the protest will not stop until their demands are addressed. While addressing protesters today in several stops in Eastleigh area of Nairobi, Odinga condemned the manner in which President William Ruto is running the government, which he says is illegitimate.
Azimio leader Raila Odinga's tour of Kiambu County for the People's Baraza was characterized by cat-and-mouse games as the police tried to block his entry into Kiambu town.
Tarehe 20 Jumatatu tuko Nairobi. Wangapi watakuja nione mkono.
Raila's entourage would later outsmart the police by using other routes to access Kiambu town, where he addressed a rally. During the tour, Raila criticized the government for not bringing down the cost of living, mainly consumables like flour, cooking fat and electricity.
Musikubali tuwekwe kwa chupa na mtu na tufunikwe na tuwekwe baharini. Wakati umefika na hatuulizi ruhusa, katiba imetupatia ruhusa. Ruhusa haitoki kwa Ruto na haki yangu haitoki kwa Ruto.
Watu wa Kiambu, siku ya Jumatatu tarehe 20 tutembee pamoja hapa Nairobi. Tutatembea pamoja. Na sio tu Kenya, vile umeelezwa na viongozi wenzangu. Afrika yote, kutoka kule Afrika Kusini hadi Nigeria, hadi Gambia, hadi Tunisia, hadi Senegali, watu wote wako wanafanya maandamano. Na wanafanya maandamano dhidi ya serikali ambazo zimeshindwa kazi ya kutetea wananchi. Tuko pamoja na ni haki yenu. Jana tumeona Mheshimiwa Ruto ameteua manaibu wa waziri 50. Kwa hao 50, mumeona kuna hasla pale kweli? Kwa wale 50, kuna mama mboga kweli? Amechukua wadosi mabilionea kama Kidero, ati yeye ndiye anaenda kumsaidia kazi. Hiyo ni ungwana kweli?
Police threw tear gas canisters, but Raila continued with his address and condemned the actions. He further said that Kenyans are not begging to be allowed to demonstrate on Monday, since it is a constitutionally guaranteed right. He also took to the podium to criticize President Ruto for appointing 50 chief administrative secretaries, saying that it was a blatant abuse of power which Kenyans would pay for dearly. He further went on to beseech Kenyans to show up for the peaceful demonstration that was planned for Monday, and he said that the Kenyans would march on to State House so that the government could give them answers on whether the situation in the country would change. Reporting for Focus TV, my name is JoyMolly Maribe.
The beginning of rains is a relief to many, with the rains falling in different parts of the country. Flooding is one of the issues that come along with the most awaited for refreshing rains that have seen many farmers begin their planting season. Wakairo, a village in Ruiru, is one of the places suffering flooding, with residents making calls to the government to help make the roads accessible. Take a look.
This is the state of most parts of Wakairo, a village in Ruiru, following the heavy rainfall that has been witnessed in Nairobi over the past few weeks. Muddy puddles, flooded roads and patches of water is a common sight at Wakairo. Residents complain of poor drainage in the area despite having leaders that can construct proper roads and drainage systems.
Maze life huku unaona imekuwa hard, hatuwezi hata pita in peace. Na check environment vile tunateseka, na si hata hatuna leaders wenye wanaweza tujengea bridge ama wanaweza tengeneza hii place waipiga hata mara mtu kwetu. Hatuwezi teseka, ona venye mtu lazima upite na matope. Siku nyingine rafiki yangu ameanguka akavunja bag ikaingia ndani ya maji, laptop yake ishaharibika tayari, unaona? Yani maisha imekuwa ngumu sana na tuna leaders.
Residents further call out to the government for help to intervene in the situation by constructing better roads and putting in place good drainage systems.
Mimi naitwa Molly, mimi ni mkazi wa Wakairo. So I live here, and as you can see behind here, this is a road that usually used to pass when we want to go to the supermarket. Naishi kule chini, so as you can see saizi kumesha flood, so it's become so difficult kupita kama kwa matope. Saa zingine hata usiku mtu anaanguka, ama pia hata saa zingine ndio uende supermarket you have to go the other way around, hivi unazunguka ama unachukua bodaboda. It's become really hectic. Alafu pia hii maji ni chafu, tunakuwa na mosquitoes usiku, kila siku tunakuliwa na mosquitoes. Pia watoto wetu mara mingi watoto wanaanguka hapa, na ukiona saa zingine this water is a bit deep, mtu akizanguka ndani anaweza drown. So we are really asking the government, please mkuje mtengeneze hapa. This is very poor drainage and it's affecting us as a society. Thank you.
Mercy Imbinda, Wakairo. Ruiru.
Principal Secretary for Education Dr. Belio Kipsang monitored the opening of junior secondary school and the distribution of textbooks for grade 7 learners at Arap Moi Primary School. Kipsang further added that the Ministry of Education is working hand in hand with members of Parliament to ensure the utilization of CDF in improving infrastructure in schools.
Asante.
Principal Secretary for Education Dr. Belio Kipsang yesterday monitored the opening of junior secondary schools and the distribution of textbooks for grade 7 learners at Arap Moi Primary School in Kajiado County. Dr. Belio said that they have started receiving grade 7 students across the country and distributing of books for the learners.
Across the country today we have started receiving children in grade 7 and also distributing books to those schools, because you know these instructional materials are very critical. It is a new level of learning, and therefore while we shall be supporting the teachers in interpreting the designs and all the others, it is very important that each learner has a book.
The Education Principal Secretary added that stakeholders should work hand in hand to prepare learners to choose their pathways in senior secondary school.
CBC is more of learner-centered, and that if it is learner-centered, then it is expected that by the time a teacher is coming to a classroom, the learner will have appreciated what they will be learning. And that is why it is important for them to have the books so that they can appreciate and they can therefore be able to have a fair interaction with the teacher.
Kipsang further added that the Ministry of Education is closely working with members of Parliament to ensure the utilization of CDF in improving infrastructure in schools.
When we were domiciling junior secondary in primary schools, we did it knowing that there will be challenges with infrastructure. And that is why we've been having a lot of engagement across leadership. We are working very closely with our members of Parliament so that they can be able to optimize on the CDF money.
Present during the monitoring exercise were Kajiado County Commissioner Mr. Felix Watakila, Kajiado County Director of Education Mr. Pius Kosgei, Kajiado North Sub-County Director of Education Mr. Joseph Wairuri, and among other education stakeholders. Mukhsin Mohamed.
Countries in the 4 cardinal points of Africa, Tunisia, Nigeria and South Africa are facing similar riots led by opposition leaders. Residents took to the streets seeking to outfit the current regime while also seeking audience for their demands such as reduction of the high cost of living. Here is more on that story.
Opposition protests similar to those in Kenya have coincided with those of 3 other countries across Africa. In South Africa, opposition leader Julius Malema seeks to force the resignation of current President Cyril Ramaphosa.
It is our constitutional right to protest, and we shall protest on the 20th of March. We're not scared of the state power. So everything is going to come to a standstill. We don't want to see a single track moving.
In Tunisia, the National Salvation Front, led by Ahmed Najib Chebi, seeks to force a response from current President Kais Saied, accusing him of destroying the economic lives of the people. And finally, in Nigeria, residents took to the streets claiming fraud in the recently concluded general elections that assumed President Bola Tinubu into power. They are also protesting against fuel shortage and currency swapping difficulties that they have been experiencing. Reporting for Focus TV, I am Nikki Lynn Newcafe.
We are taking another short break right here. We'll be back with an exclusive interview on the state of CBC in the country. Keep watching.
Delicious, perfect, sweet, or you might as well say ajabu. Is there a better way to describe the Valentine Cake House cakes? It simply is happiness. Get a taste of our cakes today. Taste happiness.
hiyo ndo shida. Ni mtoi. Na tumemwingiza kwa bizi yetu yote bana. Na nilikwambia ilikuwa bad idea kuleta mtoi kwa bizi.
Simino na handle busy. Simino handle busy.
Wewe unatasti yo boy?
Relax. Mtoi na ni boys wetu pia. Yo kido. Kuna shida sisi?
I always wanted more. I know everything is not in order.
Jibu ni hapo.
Ngoja kuona kana tokea.
Hapo kuna shida na mtoi ni ati uende.
I was not sure this is what I wanted anymore.
Imagine nitakubayo ukipata hii mali fulani. Watch. Tuna gold. Do you know how much?
I had worked myself into the flame and now I was feeling the heat of it.
My name is Elizabeth Mungai. I'm currently the Sub-County Director of Education, Meru County. Goji Sub-County is one of the 16 sub-counties in Meru County, bordering Abugeta Sub-County on one side. On the other side, it borders Tharaka Nithi County. I have close to 9,000 school-going children. And then on the secondary bit, close to 10,000 students. As a Sub-County Director of Education, I'm in charge of implementing government policies, the ones that have been set more so by the government of Kenya, narrowed down to the Ministry of Education. I'm supposed to ensure that all the policies that have been set, they are followed in all our basic learning institutions. I'm also supposed to monitor the programs, the education programs, and also to coordinate all the stakeholders in the education sector and ensure that all the learners have access. There's equity and quality education being offered in the education sector. The government of Kenya is currently implementing a competency-based curriculum, which is one of the reforms, education reforms being implemented by the Ministry of Education. And I would say that it was one of the milestones that Kenya has or is undertaking. And in the sub-county, we are fully implementing the policies in relation to the CBC. We are prepared. The stakeholders are embracing the CBC very well. And the small challenges that are being experienced on the ground, the teething problem, they're being handled very well after wide consultation from the higher offices, other stakeholders, other sagas that we partner with. So always well, we are ready. When we were pressing learners in the junior secondary schools, a majority of stakeholders did not get it that the education office is guided by a ministerial guideline in which a multi-sectoral agency that consisting of the Interior, Teacher Service Commission, the Ministry of Education. We had a representation from all those agencies, and they were the ones, it constituted the panels that were going around the schools, and there were several areas that were looked at. So when we did the clustering so that we are able to utilize the resources fully, majority of the community, majority of the people in the communities that we are dealing with were not fully comprehending that not all schools were supposed to host or were not supposed to domicile the junior secondary school. So to convince them that we had to cluster, guided by the enrollments, guided by the availability or proper availability of resources, it was quite a tall order to convince them. But after a lot of consultation, after a lot of having stakeholders meeting, we settled down to the best schools. And right now, I would say that the sub-county has stabilized, and they were able to see the essence of clustering. But the assessment is ongoing. The schools that did not qualify to have the junior secondary this year, next year, after a bit of improvement, and if they follow the guidelines that were set on their way forward in terms of improvement, we will do the assessments again, and their they will be given a chance to host come 2024. So that is an ongoing process. I would say it's not a challenge per se, but it was some of the teething issues, but now we're on course.
Okay. So what are some of these qualifications that a school has to meet to become, to host the junior secondary?
Okay. So there was a guideline, the guideline that was put in place and was given to the field officers. Some of the things we were looking at were infrastructure. We had to domicile junior secondary in an institution where at least there were a couple of not used classrooms. For example, we had to have a room that would be used as a classroom for grade 7. We needed also to see a room that would be used as a laboratory, which would be equipped by the government to act as a laboratory in junior secondary. And also we needed to see another room which would be used for the technical subjects like home science, music, art and craft, and other, and also probably for agriculture. We needed to see a playground because again we are preparing learners for talents and for the pathway. There's a pathway when they be going to the senior school where those learners who are talented will undertake that. So they need to be prepared well in the junior secondary, and that's why we needed a school at least with a playground. For agriculture subjects and the projects in the agriculture, also a school, we needed to see whether they're able to have a garden, not necessarily a big garden, but where they would do improvised, even if it's the sack, we call them sack gardening, or the box gardening, at least to ensure the learners are not disadvantaged. We were also looking at, apart from the classrooms and the playground and the land, we're also looking at, they must have substantive land, around 4 acres in the rural area, and the school must be fully registered by the Ministry of Education, and the land ownership must be well put in place. In other words, we are looking for the school that has a title deed or it's in the process of acquiring ownership. If it's sponsored, for example, by a church, we wanted to see whether they're in the process of getting the land written, properly written, it belongs to that school. So there were other areas, but basically those were the major things that we are looking at. And I want to say once again that the assessment is ongoing for the, it's not a one-time thing, it's ongoing. So as we continue engaging with the stakeholders, we find it necessary. For example, if a school is between one school and the other, we find the learners are straining in terms of distance, we'll still reassess and give that other school a chance. So those were some of the things we were looking at as a panel. Yeah, I would say that Igoji sub-county is situated in a rural setup, because even the schools that would say they're in urban, it's not fully urban. So I may not, where I sit, I may not be able to compare urban and rural. I would say that in a rural setup, we are advantaged in terms of the schools have big chunks of land. The ones that are in the town, for example, where the office is situated is a small town, they are equally advantaged in the sense of the populations are good, and the preparedness, because of the diversity of the urban setup, would say that they are okay. But Igoji is in the rural setup, so there are no major adversities and differences. Yeah. Initially, the teachers were used to teaching using the old pedagogy methodologies, but now with the reforms, we are now moving from 844, which was exam oriented. We are moving to a curriculum which is more of competencies, where learners should be placed and in relation to what they are competent in. So the teachers also need to be prepared so that now they are able to adjust accordingly, and we undertake them. The assessments, the trainings are done in intervals where we take teachers of we place them in zones. We train them over the weekends, we train them over the school holidays, and it is cascaded kind of a training where we have master trainers coming to the county, training the trainers of trainers, and then after that they train now the teachers at the zonal levels in various sub-counties. So basically we teach them, or they are trained on the methodologies of teaching, they are trained on the content and how to prepare assessments for the learners, how to undertake that. They are also trained on how to integrate ICT, because initially we were not fully embracing ICT while teaching. Right now we want to do ICT methodologies. So among other things, the teachers are getting equipped with the relevant skills so that they are able to handle CBC. Yes. So the learners, when they were doing KPSEA, that is the grade 6 exam, it was a national exam. When we were, the field officers at Igoji were doing the monitoring, and we could ask the learners how they feel about the transition. A majority of them were very eager to transit to junior secondary, and later on we were guided by the Presidential Working Party that came to the ground, corrected people's opinions on where the learners should be placed, whether at secondary or the primary. After the direction given, we placed them at the primary schools, and after that we ensured that these learners felt they have transited, and that's why we ensured that their classrooms are different, they are labeled differently. We also ensured that these learners have different uniform from the ones the primary schools are wearing. We worked very well with the Board of Management to ensure that these learners feel like they have transited now from early learning and they have gone to junior secondary school. So the learners are embracing and they are very happy. In fact, some of them, they are saying they are in Form 1 of junior secondary. But again, we want to make them understand it's a new system and they're in grade 7. So they're embracing it well, I would say so. One thing the Ministry of Education believes in is the offering all learners in the country with quality education, and also we believe in equity. And that's why the government of Kenya is doing its best to ensure that these learners get their capitation. As the field officers, we have already opened accounts, or we have facilitated the opening of accounts for the junior secondary schools. And we are now in the process of keying in the learners in NEMIS. NEMIS is one of the platforms where the learners are put online so that the government is able to monitor how many learners are in the public schools. So we say that even if the private schools right now, they seems like they are a little bit ahead, as the media is trying to portray, we would say that in due course there will be a lot of equity, and people will see that also educating your child in the public primary school, it will still be okay. My part in short is, there's a lot of misconception out there in relation to the CBC, and I want to tell people CBC is the way to go. Initially, people would get judged by just one exam. You do an exam in the Form 4, probably you're sick, you're going through some issues, you don't do very well, and you're judged by just one exam. And your life, the trajectory of life is changed by an exam. That was the 844 system. With the CBC, this is all about competencies, and you're being assessed as you continue in your line of education. In other words, there'll be those assessments in the school level, which will, that is continuous assessments, and again at the end, at grade 12, that is where you'll do the exam, the national exam, which will only amount to 60%. Therefore, even if you don't do very well in the 60% and you did very well with the continuous, you still make it. And also, when it comes to the pathways in the senior school, you can either go to the STEM, that is the sciences and the engineering. If you are an arts person, you can go to the pathway of the arts and social sciences. And if you are not into the cognitive bit and you're more talented, for example, in drama, in sports, you can take that line of talent. Therefore, people will be placed as per their competencies. So I would wish that people embrace the current curriculum, Let us encourage all the stakeholders around us. Let's do proper sensitizations. Let's consult the relevant offices, and that is actually the way to go. Again, I would also encourage stakeholders.
The celebration of love never times out. We are here to celebrate love with you, your way. Get tailor-made cakes suiting your budget from the Valentine Cake House. We are serving you happiness.
The Zambezi Cabin Resorts, we provide food for our conference delegation and large groups doing team building at our restaurant. We also organize corporate and informal dinners. Book with us today and make your reservation. Let us give you and your team an amazing experience, because hospitality matters to us and so to you. Karibu Zambezi, where real hospitality matters.
Over the last 7 days, the market has risen 1.5%, driven by the gain of 6.2% in the financial sector. In contrast, the market has seen a decline of 30% over the last 12 months. Looking forward, earnings are forecast to grow by 5.4% annually. According to the past earnings growth, the earnings for Kenyan listed companies have grown 11% per year over the last 3 years. Revenue for these companies have grown 6.3% per year. This means that more sales are being generated by these companies overall, and subsequently, their profits are increasing too. According to the current market price to earn, investors are pessimistic on the Kenyan market, indicating that they anticipate earnings will not grow as fast as they have historically. The market is trading at a price-earning ratio of 5.9 times, which is lower than its 3-year average price earning of 11.0 times. Analysts are more optimistic on the financial sector, expecting annual earning growth of 17% over the next 5 years. However, this is lower than its past earnings growth rate of 27% per year. In contrast, the telecom industry is expected to see its earnings growth to stay flat over the next few years. Edward Omino, Focus TV.
Good evening and welcome to this live broadcast. My name is JoyMolly Maribe. Today we're going to be looking at the weather, and we will start with the capital of Kenya, where light showers are expected during midday, and in the evening there's going to be heavy rainfall accompanied by thunder. In the western region, we expect that the whole day will be sunny, and in the evening there shall be expected a heavy rainfall with thunderstorms. And in the coastal region, we expect that there shall be a lot of rainfall, so please carry your umbrella tomorrow. No swimming for you today. So that is all we have for today's forecast. I hope to be seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place.
Thank you for keeping it Focus News at 9. Let's get sporty. The Kenya Rugby Union KRU elections have been moved forward to Wednesday 29th March after failing to take off as earlier planned due to failure of compliance with the court ruling served on Thursday, barring the exercise to take place at the RFUEA grounds. The Federation is going to elect new officials who will spearhead the running of rugby operations in the country for the next 4 years. Former KRU Vice Chairman Sasha Mutai is set to replace Odor Gangla as the Federation Chairman after going unopposed following the withdrawal of former Kenya Harlequins Chairman Joe Onsando. Gangla, the former Union Secretary General, has opted not to seek re-election. Positions being contested for include Vice Chairmanship, Honorary Secretary and Directorship.
We did file a petition this morning before the High Court, and I just learned that again the High Court is going on recess, I think from next week, so we've not been able to secure any orders to vacate the court order which we received last night. Unfortunately, we've been instructed that because there are already existing court orders, and despite the goodwill of everybody to try and resolve this issue so that the game can move forward, we cannot be able to proceed with this meeting until that undertaking is filed in court, which can only happen on Monday.
World #1 tennis player Carlos Alcaraz announced the start of his Miami Open title defense in emphatic fashion, losing just 2 games in a comprehensive win over Facundo Bagnis. The 19-year-old US Open champion needed 65 minutes to complete a 6-0, 6-2 victory against the Argentine ranked 100th. The Spaniard, who triumphed at Indian Wells last week, has lost just 1 of his 16 matches this year. In the women's draw, 22-year-old Canadian Bianca Andreescu, who ended British #1 Emma Raducanu's challenge earlier with this week, came back to defeat world #1 10 Maria Sakkari 5-7, 6-3, 6-4. And Thomas Tuchel has been confirmed as the new manager of Bayern Munich as the ex-Chelsea boss takes over from the ex-Julian Nagelsmann. German giants Bayern confirmed the news with a statement on social media. Former Blues boss Tuchel has signed a deal up until the summer of 2025 after Nagelsmann's contract, which was due until 2026, was terminated by the club bosses. Tuchel will supervise training for the first time on Monday as he prepares to take on Borussia Dortmund. Bayern also thanked Nagelsmann and his coaching staff. That story right there brings us to a wrap right here at Focus TV at 9. Many thanks for joining us tonight, and special thanks to everyone that has made this bulletin a success. Be sure to follow us on our social media handles and keep your feedback and comments coming. My name is Mukhsin Imbinda. Have a good night.